Autoline Daily is brought to you by Siemens PLM Software, transforming the process of innovation.
Here are today's top headlines. Fiat and Chrysler announced they're going to tie the knot. Saab could run as a standalone company, and the next Ford Focus could get 43 mpg. Up next, we'll be back with the news behind the headlines. This is Autoline Daily for Inauguration Day, Tuesday, January 20, 2009, and now the news. Hallelujah, Chrysler has been saved again. Fiat is going to take a 35% equity position in Chrysler, even though it will not fork over any cash. Instead, Fiat is going to immediately give Chrysler full access to its platforms, powertrains, components, and distribution system, and that alone could be worth billions. In addition, Fiat will provide management services supporting Chrysler's viability plan that it has to submit to the U.S. Treasury next month, whatever that means. Now, this should not affect the product sharing programs Chrysler has with Nissan and Volkswagen, but I'll bet Carlos Ghosn at Nissan is kicking himself that Fiat got a hold of Chrysler with no cash involved. However, this deal must still meet with regulatory approval. And where does this leave Cerberus? Daimler still owns just under 20% of Chrysler, with Fiat taking 35% and an option to take that over 50%. That means Cerberus will only own 45% of Chrysler and maybe less than 30%. While the Fiat deal requires Cerberus to maintain ownership in Chrysler, my guess is the next step will involve management changes at Chrysler. Not immediately, but before the year is over. Last week at the Detroit Auto Show, Lincoln debuted a vehicle called the C Concept. It features a 1.6-liter EcoBoost engine and a 6-speed dual-clutch transmission. Autoblog reports that powertrain may be used in the next generation Focus, which would deliver 180 horsepower and fuel economy that rivals a diesel, 43 miles per gallon. Czech automaker Škoda says its sales in China will grow 50% in 2009. Gasgoo.com reports that the company is expecting to sell 90,000 vehicles in China this year. And I didn't even know Škoda sold cars in China. And Škoda, by the way, is part of the VW group, which will help VW boost its share of the Chinese market. UAW President Ron Gettelfinger says the February 17 deadline for GM and Chrysler to show Congress its restructuring plans may be unattainable. The plan includes major concessions from everyone involved, and according to the Detroit News, Gettelfinger says no real progress has been made. And meanwhile, the Canadian government is getting impatient, waiting for those restructuring plans before it agrees to provide GM and Chrysler with bailout money. But here is some progress. According to Automotive News, GM is preparing Saab to become its own standalone company. GM would still own Saab, but decision-making and financial control would be given to the Swedish automaker. R&D and design is expected to move back to Sweden from Germany, and this could make it easier for GM to sell off Saab. Coming up in our feature story, we'll look at how Honda plans on marketing its redesigned Insight hybrid, and we'll be back right after this.
Siemens, transforming the process of innovation.
As we reported yesterday, Honda chose the Detroit Auto Show to reintroduce its hybrid nameplate, the Insight. Today, a little more about the car and how the company intends to market it. The 2010 Honda Insight is a 5-passenger, 5-door hybrid with a combined EPA score of 41 miles per gallon. One of the ways you're able to drive in the 40s is to use Honda's video game-like Eco Assist system. Once you push in the green button on the dash, the instrument panel lights up to give you options that let you increase the car's efficiency. Now, this kind of system may not be for everyone, but Honda believes it knows exactly who to market the car to.
Well, Honda is looking to really reach out to the Gen Y buyer with this vehicle. That is our target buyer in terms of that buyer, that young buyer who's looking for a hybrid alternative to transportation. Reaching out to that buyer and really marketing towards that sort of that Apple appeal, if you will, giving it that Apple feel that all Gen Y buyers are familiar with in terms of marketing theme, and really promoting and reaching out to that customer.
And Honda catered to the Gen Y customer not only in styling, but also in introductions. Talk about understated. It used a blog to announce the Insight concept at last year's Paris Auto Show, and at last week's International Auto Show unveiling, the car flew virtually under the radar when the company chose not to hold a press conference. Maybe that's the kind of marketing Gen Y likes? Of course, Honda hopes that other groups like empty nesters will also buy the car as well. And if so, the company will gladly increase its annual sales goal of 90,000 North American units. On Thursday, we'll be back with a look under the hood of the 2010 Insight. And that's it for today's top news in the global automotive industry. But don't forget, you can get podcast transcripts and a whole lot more on our website, AutolineDaily.com. Thanks for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.
Visit our website for even more great content all week long. Autoline Extra, John's Journal, podcasts, and even more. So click over and get the inside view at AutolineDetroit.tv.